5 beastly guardians of the underworld across world mythologies. Throughout history, cultures across the globe have imagined the underworld, that mysterious realm of the dead, not only as a place of passage, but as a domain fiercely guarded. To step into this other world was never easy. Souls of the deceased were expected to pass trials, cross rivers, or face terrifying beings who stood at the very gates of death itself. These guardians weren't simply monsters, they were threshold keepers, forces of both terror and cosmic order, ensuring that the boundaries between the living and the dead remained unbroken. Today, we'll explore 5 of the most legendary guardians of the underworld, from the three-headed hound of Hades in Greece to the vigilant demons of Mesopotamia, to the beings of Norse and Aztec myth. Each culture gave the role of gatekeeper to creatures as awe-inspiring as they were terrifying. Their stories remind us that death, in every tradition, is not chaos, but a journey marked by order, rules, and guardianship. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on new videos that come out. So, let's open the gates and meet 5 of the most fearsome watchers of the world beyond. Number 1. Cerberus, the three-headed hound of Hades. Greek mythology. One of the most recognizable guardians of the underworld is Cerberus, the monstrous hound who belonged to Hades, ruler of the Greek underworld. He was the offspring of the monsters Echidna, half woman and half snake, and Typhon, a terrible serpentine creature with human features and several heads. Cerberus is often depicted as a massive dog with 3 heads, a serpent's tail, and sometimes snakes protruding from his body. Cerberus stood at the entrance of Hades' realm. His task was clear: keep the living out and the dead in. Cerberus's 3 heads were said to represent the past, present, and future, or, in some traditions, the cycle of birth, life, and death. This symbolism reinforced his role as a liminal creature, one who embodies the threshold itself. Unlike many monsters in Greek myth, Cerberus wasn't evil, he was necessary, part of the cosmic order that kept the world separate. In Dante's Inferno, Cerberus can be found in the 3rd circle of hell, in where indulgent pleasures of gluttony are punished with freezing sleet, as sinners howl like ravenous dogs. The muddy, slimy ground mirrors their excess and greed. Cerberus is also encountered in the 12 labors of Heracles, also later known as Hercules, where the hero must enter the underworld, capture the beast, and bring it to the surface. This task was the 12th, given by Eurystheus, the king of Tiryns. Armed with nothing but his immense strength, Heracles wrestled Cerberus into submission and dragged him to the surface, after which Eurystheus pleaded with Heracles to take Cerberus back to the underworld, promising to free him from any additional labors once Cerberus was returned to his owner. Another myth tells how Orpheus had to journey into Hades to retrieve his wife, Eurydice, and to do so, he needed to bypass Cerberus. Despite Cerberus's fearsome nature, Orpheus soothed the creature to sleep with the enchanting music of his lyre, allowing him safe passage into the underworld. This moment reveals the rare vulnerability of Cerberus, whose formidable presence was overcome by the power of Orpheus's divine music during his desperate quest. In Virgil's Latin epic, the Aeneid, Aeneas encounters Cerberus, who is guarding the entrance to the underworld. To get past him, the Cumaean Sibyl, who is guiding Aeneas, throws down a loaf of honey cakes infused with drowsy herbs that lure Cerberus into a deep sleep. This shows that brute force wasn't the only way to get past the guardian. Wit and music could work as well. Cerberus reminds us that death is not a door left open. It is watched, guarded, and controlled. For the Greeks, the underworld was orderly, not chaotic, and Cerberus was the living or undead embodiment of that principle. Number 2. Garmr, the blood-stained hound of Norse myth. In Norse mythology, another terrifying canine guards the realm of the dead, Garmr. Often described as a massive, blood-stained wolf or dog, Garmr is associated with Hel, the goddess who rules over the land of the dead, also known by the same name, Hel. Hel, the goddess, was a daughter of Loki. Garmr is not as widely depicted as Cerberus, but the poetic Edda and prose Edda, both sources for Norse mythology, reference him as a creature chained at the entrance of Gnipahellir, or the Cave of Snarling. His role is to watch over the souls of the dead and prevent intruders from meddling with the domain of Hel. During Ragnarök, the apocalyptic end of the world, Garmr is fated to break free from his chains. He will rise to fight the god Tyr, the one-handed deity of justice and law. The battle ends in mutual destruction, with both Garmr and Tyr killing one another. This confrontation underscores the Norse belief that even the guardians of the underworld are bound by fate, unable to escape their role in the grand cosmic cycle. Unlike Cerberus, Garmr's depiction is less about balance and more about dread. He symbolizes the inevitability of death and the blood-soaked violence of the Norse worldview. For a culture steeped in warrior ethos, it made sense that the underworld's guardian wasn't simply a gatekeeper, but also a participant in the apocalyptic clash of gods and monsters. Garmr, the Hound of Hel, shows us that in Norse cosmology, the underworld is not a place of stillness, but part of a larger destiny, chaos and destruction that eventually gives rise to renewal. Number 3. Ereshkigal's Gatekeepers, the demons of Mesopotamia. Traveling further back in history, the Mesopotamians envisioned the underworld as a shadowy place ruled by Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead. Unlike the Greek or Norse traditions where one great beast stood guard, Mesopotamian myth gives us a host of terrifying guardians at the gates of the underworld. The underworld, known as Irkalla, was reached only by passing through a series of 7 gates, each watched by its own guardian. These guardians were often depicted as hybrid demons, part human, part animal, sometimes with wings, claws, or fearsome faces. They were not merely gatekeepers, but enforcers of divine law, ensuring no soul passed unchallenged. At the heart of this grim hierarchy was Neti, the chief gatekeeper of Irkalla. Feared and revered, Neti controlled the gates with unyielding authority, regulating the passage of souls to maintain the boundary between the living and the dead. While Neti was the primary sentinel, the other 6 gates were also guarded by beings who echoed his relentless vigilance, each embodying aspects of judgment and punishment, reinforcing the underworld's demands. The best-known story involving the gate guardians is the myth of Inanna's descent. To confront her sister Ereshkigal, queen of Irkalla, Inanna had to pass through all 7 gates. Each guardian required Inanna to surrender a piece of her clothing or jewelry, symbols of her power and status, stripping her bare and powerless before the queen. This harrowing trial emphasized the fundamental truth of the underworld. It treats all souls as equals, bereft of earthly pride or privilege. Alongside Neti and the gatekeepers, Irkalla was inhabited by other formidable entities, such as Namtar, Ereshkigal's divine attendant, who enacted the queen's judgments. Together, these beings ensured that the order of the underworld was absolute. No soul could evade its fate, and no law could be broken within the somber realm ruled by Ereshkigal. These gate guardians symbolize the inescapable nature of death and the universal loss it brings. They enforced the ancient belief that death is the great leveler, where kings and commoners alike must relinquish their worldly identities. Beyond mere monstrous figures, they represented the immutable laws that govern the fate of all mortals. Number 4. Xolotl, the Aztec Psychopomp and Guardian. In Aztec mythology, the underworld, known as Mictlan, ruled by King Mictlantecuhtli, lord of the underworld, and his wife Mictlantecuhtli, lady of the underworld, was a labyrinthine place of 9 levels that souls had to traverse after death. One of the most important figures associated with guiding and guarding the dead was Xolotl, the twin brother of Quetzalcoatl. Depicted as a dog-headed god, or sometimes a skeletal figure with dog features, Xolotl was both a guardian and companion. Unlike the fearsome Cerberus or Garmr, Xolotl's role was more complex. He was a psychopomp, a guide who helped souls navigate the treacherous paths of Mictlan. These journeys included crossing rivers, climbing mountains, and enduring winds that cut like knives. Xolotl ensured that the souls did not wander aimlessly or become lost in eternal suffering. Dogs in Aztec culture held sacred significance as companions in death. Archaeological discoveries of dogs buried with their owners support the belief that these animals acted like guides in the afterlife. Xolotl embodied this cultural reverence, bridging the world of humans, gods, and the dead. But Xolotl was also seen as a guardian of transitions, of death, but also of twilight, fire, and even deformity. He represented the liminal spaces where transformation occurs, reinforcing the idea that death is not an end but part of a cycle. For the Aztecs, survival in Mictlan required endurance and guidance. Xolotl symbolizes that while the underworld may be terrifying, no soul makes the journey alone. Number 5. Anubis, the jackal god of ancient Egypt. No list of underworld guardians would be complete without Anubis, the jackal-headed deity of ancient Egypt. But he was not merely a fearsome guardian at the gates of death. He played multiple essential roles in the Egyptian afterlife. He was the protector of tombs, safeguarding graves from desecration, and the overseer of mummification, ensuring that the bodies were properly preserved for the soul's journey. As a psychopomp, Anubis guided souls safely through the perils of the underworld. And most notably, he presided over the weighing of the heart ceremony, where the heart of the deceased was placed on scales opposite the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the soul was allowed to pass into the eternal paradise of the field of reeds. If not, it was devoured by Amit, the crocodile lion hippo monster. Though not a guard dog like Cerberus or Garmr, Anubis embodied the same principle. The underworld has rules and they must be enforced. He prevented chaos by ensuring that only the worthy could enter the blessed afterlife. Anubis's jackal form was not accidental. Jackals were scavengers often seen near graveyards, and the Egyptians elevated this natural image into divine symbolism. In doing so, they transformed a feared predator into a protector and sacred guardian. Through Anubis, the Egyptians expressed their belief that death was not simply the end, but a carefully regulated passage, one requiring judgment, order, and guardianship. From Cerberus to Garmr to the demons of Ereshkigal, from Xolotl to Anubis, the guardians of the underworld remind us that across cultures, death is not chaos. It is order, guarded by laws and beings beyond imagination. These creatures aren't villains, but boundary keepers, ensuring that life and death remain distinct and sacred. Their stories reveal how humans across time have grappled with the great unknown, projecting their fears and hopes onto the threshold of the afterlife. Whether terrifying hounds, skeletal gods, or hybrid demons, each guardian tells us the same truth. The journey into death is not free of challenge, but with challenge comes transformation. So the next time you see a three-headed hound or a jackal-headed god in art, remember these aren't just myths. They are echoes of humanity's oldest questions. What lies beyond? And who waits to meet us at the gates? So what do you think? Who will meet you at the gate? Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe and join the ALKEMYSTICA community to stay up to date for upcoming tarot courses, tarot readings, consultations, videos, and more.